I thought I was being careful. I thought no one would ever find out until one morning, a message popped up that ended everything. My name is Maria Thompson. I'm 30 years old, and up until recently, I thought my life was set in stone. I've been married to Ryan for 12 years. Yes, 12. We met when I was barely 18 and he was 20, still figuring life out. Back then, everything about him felt magnetic. He was funny, charming in that slightly awkward way, and he had this quiet determination about him that made me feel safe. We were the kind of couple people rolled their eyes at because we were so wrapped up in each other. We moved in together within a year, got married a year after that, and just built our life. We didn't have kids, which was a choice we made together. We were happy enough just being us. But here's the truth people don't talk about. Love can be steady, reliable, and still start to feel like it's missing something. Somewhere around year 10, I started noticing the silence between us more. Not the comfortable, easy silence, the kind where you're just existing peacefully together, but a heavier kind, the kind that makes you wonder if there's anything left to say. Ryan worked hard, came home tired, and we'd watch TV, eat dinner, and go to bed. We didn't fight much, but we also didn't laugh as much as we used to. I think that's when the boredom started seeping in. So when the opportunity came up to volunteer for a 6-month military-adjacent deployment program, I surprised even myself by applying. It wasn't active combat, but it was a high-intensity support role for an overseas base. Long hours, a mix of administrative work and field coordination. I told Ryan it would be good for my career, that it was about serving in my own way. But deep down, I think I wanted something that would jolt me awake. The deployment was no joke. Days were long and exhausting, nights were short, and stress was constant. But oddly enough, I felt more alive than I had in years. Every day was different. New people, new challenges, a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in so long. And then there was Alex. I remember the first time I saw him. He was leaning against a supply crate, laughing at something one of the guys said. He had that easy confidence, the kind that made people gravitate toward him. Tall, fit, with dark hair that always looked like he'd just run a hand through it. He caught me looking once, and instead of the usual awkward smile most people give, he just smirked, like he already knew what I was thinking. We started talking casually during breaks. At first it was harmless, just two people in the same stressful environment, sharing small talk. But he had this way of remembering things I said. I'd mention a song I liked, and the next day he'd play it near our station. I'd complain about the instant coffee, and a week later he'd somehow find better coffee and bring me a cup. It felt good. Too good. After a month, I realized I was looking forward to seeing him more than I should. Ryan and I barely had time to talk on video calls. The time zone difference and my schedule made it tricky, and when we did, the conversations felt routine. With Alex, it was different. I laughed again. I felt seen. I told myself it was just friendship. A deployment friend. Everyone has them, someone who helps you get through the grind. But then there were the late-night talks. We'd stay back after our shift, just sitting on the edge of a loading dock, talking about everything from childhood memories to our biggest regrets. His voice was low, steady, and sometimes I caught him looking at me in a way that made my heart race. The first time our hands brushed, it was an accident. The second time, it wasn't. It's hard to explain how it happens, the slow slide from just friends to something else. One night, a group of us went into town for dinner. Somehow, Alex and I ended up walking back alone. We stopped near a quiet stretch of road, the air warm and still. He looked at me, really looked at me, and before I could think, he leaned in. It was just a kiss at first, but it lingered, deepened, and by the time we pulled away, I knew something had shifted. I told myself it was deployment loneliness, that it didn't mean anything, that once we went home, this would fade into a memory. But it didn't. Over the next few months, we became careful but deliberate. A touch on the arm here, a whispered joke there. No one said anything, but I'm sure people noticed. We never went further than stolen kisses and moments that walked the line between friendly and forbidden until the last month. That month, the stress of leaving, the fear of not seeing each other again. It broke whatever restraint we had left. I won't spell out every detail, but yes, We crossed the final line. And yet, when it was time to go home, I packed my bags, hugged him goodbye, and told myself this was it. I was going back to my life. My marriage. Ryan didn't need to know. No one did. But as I boarded that flight, I couldn't shake one terrifying thought. What if I didn't want to let Alex go? When I stepped off that plane and saw Ryan waiting for me, part of me expected to feel the rush of relief I'd always imagined, the kind you see in those emotional reunion videos online. But instead, it was complicated. I hugged him, of course. I smiled. I told him I'd missed him. And I meant it in my own way. But standing there, wrapped in his arms, I realized I didn't feel the same spark I once did. My mind betrayed me, wandering to Alex's crooked grin, to the way he'd squeeze my hand when no one was looking. Ryan drove us home, asking about the trip, the work, the people. I kept my answers safe and vague. I left Alex's name out entirely. The first few weeks back were strange. Home felt familiar, but I felt different. Deployment changes you, they say, and they're right. I wasn't content to just slip back into the old routine. I wanted to look different, feel different. So I booked hair appointments, got my nails done, bought clothes that actually made me feel confident again. Ryan noticed, of course. "You're really spoiling yourself lately," he said one night as I came home with a fresh manicure. He didn't say it with malice, just curiosity. I shrugged it off with, "It's just nice to take care of myself after being gone so long." He seemed to accept that, but I could see the wheels turning. Alex hadn't faded into the background like I thought he would. If anything, he was everywhere. He hearted almost every single post I made online. Pictures of my dog, my coffee, a random sunset. Sometimes he'd comment inside jokes that no one else could possibly understand. It was bold, but subtle enough that Ryan couldn't outright accuse me of anything. Still, I could feel his suspicion growing. I told myself I could handle it. After all, I wasn't actively cheating anymore. I was just holding on to a connection I wasn't ready to let go of. About 4 months after I got back, one of my deployment friends messaged me about a team reunion picnic. It wasn't official, just a bunch of us getting together for a day. Alex would be there. The second I heard that, I knew I was going. When I told Ryan, he asked the normal questions: where, who, what time. I kept my answers short and vague, even changing the location slightly just in case he got curious. I hated lying, but I also didn't want him showing up and, well, seeing something I couldn't explain away. The morning of the reunion, I took my time getting ready. A soft beige dress that hugged just right, hair loose around my shoulders, subtle makeup that still made my eyes pop. Even spritzed on the perfume Alex once told me he liked during deployment. While I was finishing up, one of my friends called. We chatted about who might show up, and I found myself casually saying, "I hope Alex is there. He's so cute." I didn't even think about it until I noticed Ryan lingering in the hallway. I quickly ended the call, heart pounding. He didn't say anything, but his eyes lingered on me for a moment too long before he turned away. I left the house around 11 a.m., promising I'd text him if plans changed. I didn't. The picnic was just a cover. Alex and I had planned to meet up privately first. He picked a small Italian restaurant downtown, the kind of place with dim lighting, candles on the tables, and music soft enough to make everything feel intimate. When I walked in, he was already there, looking exactly like I remembered. Jeans, a fitted shirt, that easy smile. He stood to hug me, and for a second, I forgot about the world outside those walls. We ordered wine, shared pasta, and talked about everything we'd missed in each other's lives over the past few months. He made me laugh in that effortless way he always had. At one point, our knees touched under the table, and neither of us moved away. It was dangerously comfortable. I told myself we were just catching up, that it was innocent. But the way his eyes lingered on me said otherwise. And I wasn't pulling away either. We lost track of time. One glass of wine turned into 2, and by the time I glanced at my phone, it was nearly 9 p.m. I had a dozen missed notifications, none from Ryan, which somehow felt worse. "I should go," I said reluctantly, but Alex caught my hand and squeezed it. "You know this doesn't have to end here," he said, his voice low enough to send a shiver down my spine. I didn't answer. I just smiled faintly, stood, and walked out into the night. By the time I got home, the air in the house felt heavy. Ryan was sitting on the couch, phone in his hand. He looked up when I walked in, his expression unreadable. "You have a good picnic?" he asked. My throat tightened.
Yeah.
It was nice to see everyone. He nodded slowly, still watching me. Then, without another word, he turned his attention back to his phone. And in that moment, I felt a flicker of fear. The night after the so-called picnic, Ryan barely spoke to me. He wasn't cold exactly, just distant. His silence was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe he was tired. Maybe work was stressing him out. But deep down, there was this gnawing feeling that something had shifted. A few days passed. We went through the motions: breakfast, work, dinner, bed, like a couple following a script. Except Ryan's eyes lingered on me a little too long sometimes, and his smile never quite reached his eyes. Then, on a Wednesday morning, everything cracked. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, scrolling through my phone when a notification popped up. It wasn't a text, at least not in the usual sense. It was one of those anonymous alerts, the kind you read about but never expect to get. A partner you've been with has tested positive for an STD. It is recommended you get tested as soon as possible. My stomach flipped. The words blurred. I actually put my phone down and just stared at the table, my heart pounding so hard it felt like my chest might crack. The logical part of my brain told me it could be a mistake. A scam. One of those prank apps. But the other part, the part that still remembered every touch, every kiss with Alex, went straight into panic mode. I didn't think. I just opened my messages, typed out a quick, frantic note to Alex. "Did you give me something?" I sent it as a disappearing iMessage, the kind that would vanish after being read. His reply came fast. "What?"
No.
"Are you okay?" But his speed didn't comfort me. If anything, it made me more suspicious. For the rest of the day, I was a mess. I kept replaying everything in my head. Every time we'd been careless, every time we'd trusted that nothing would go wrong. I barely spoke to Ryan at all. He, on the other hand, seemed almost calm. Too calm. That night, I tried to act normal. I made dinner, asked about his day, even sat next to him on the couch. He answered politely, but there was a wall there now. Something he wasn't saying. And that's when it hit me. What if he had sent that message? What if this was his way of telling me he knew, without ever confronting me directly? The thought made me uneasy in a way I can't explain. I'd always imagined if Ryan ever found out, it would be a fight. Yelling.
Tears.
Maybe even him packing a bag and slamming the door. But this quiet, measured distance, that was worse. For the next few days, I was on edge, waiting for something to happen. I half expected him to throw the message in my face, demand an explanation, call me every name in the book. But nothing came. Until the following Monday. I came home from work to find him sitting at the dining table, a stack of papers in front of him. He looked up when I walked in, not angry, not smug, just resolute. "Maria," he said evenly, "I'm moving out. I'll be filing for divorce." I froze.
What?
Where is this coming from? He didn't answer the question directly.
"I think you know," he said.
I shook my head, tears already stinging my eyes. "Ryan, I haven't." I stopped myself. What was I going to say? I haven't cheated? Because we both knew that wasn't true, no matter how I tried to dress it up in my own head. "I swear." I tried again. "I haven't done anything that." He cut me off, not with words, but by sliding a set of house keys across the table toward me. "It's already done," he said quietly. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." And just like that, he stood, walked past me, and went into the bedroom to pack an overnight bag. I stood there, rooted to the spot, listening to the sound of drawers opening and closing. It wasn't until I heard the front door shut behind him that I realized my hands were shaking. Over the next week, the reality sank in. Ryan didn't come back, not even to talk things over. He handled everything through email and short, polite texts about logistics. No accusations. No demands for the truth. Just finality. I kept wondering, did he really know? Was that message his doing? Or had it actually been real? I never asked him, and he never told me. Now, I'm sitting in a small apartment that smells like fresh paint and feels nothing like home. The walls are bare, the rooms are too quiet, and my phone has been silent except for work emails and the occasional check-in from friends who don't know the full story. I think about Ryan a lot, about the life we built, and the way I threw it away for a few stolen moments that felt exciting at the time. I tell myself it wasn't worth it, but the truth is, part of me still craves that feeling Alex gave me, the rush, the attention, the way he made me feel alive. But I also know something now that I didn't before. Secrets don't just hurt the person you're hiding them from. They eat away at you, piece by piece, until you don't even recognize yourself. And as for that message, I'll never know if it was real, or if it was Ryan's way of saying I see you. I know. And I'm done. Either way, it worked. 12 years of marriage gone. Not with a fight, not with a scream, but with a single message that didn't even have his name on it.